Have you ever felt like life suddenly became heavier as if you were banished from your own Eden? What if the story of Adam isn't just about the fall of man, but also about the silent battle within? After being cast out of Eden, Adam faced shame, isolation, and the weight of an entirely new reality. But what if this wasn't just punishment? What if it was a struggle with something deeply human? Could Adam have experienced emotion we now recognize as depression? Today in Idea Tennis, we're going to focus on the word depression. That's the theme of the conversation today. And we're going to tie it back to a little bit of history, but also we're going to take it back to current reality because depression is something that's happening a lot to folks today. So we're going to have a conversation on that. So good morning to you, Jessica. How are you doing over there, lady?
Good morning, Asher. I am doing amazing, grateful, and blessed to be here with you today. For those of you who didn't catch last week's episode, we shared for the first time our take on some faith works conversation. And so we being Asher spoke about the story of Adam in the Garden of Eden and how it's impacted his life. And I spoke about the book of Job and how it's impacted my life. And while we're transitioning the conversation this morning, we are staying a little bit aligned with last week's conversation, where Asher's going to talk a little bit about his overcoming
Mm,
depression over the years and talking about how Adam, maybe there was no label on it back then, and for some
mm,
people, there's still no label on it for them now. But how do you navigate those waters of the feelings and the experiences, and also the physical parts that depression has on a person? And I'm going to say this: depression is
mm,
real.
mm.
There is no gender discrimination, no race discrimination, no age discrimination.
No class, no
No,
creed, no nothing.
no, it's not, it doesn't look the same on all people. It feels the same, heavy and hopelessness, but it doesn't have to be that way for forever. So, Asher.
Not normally admit because in the people that know me know I'm a very optimistic, uplifting energy guy. And when you think about depression, I want to make it literal for you. Like depression is the valley between two peaks. You think about your life that way. Sometimes you're on your mountaintop here, and if for some reason you end up in the valley, damn, what I'm doing in the valley, but you gotta focus on the next peak and get to the next peak. But oftentimes it's that journey doing the valley from one peak to the next peak. That's why I see it, right? So same with my life because depression often show up in transition. It often show up there, like you're going from one night into the next, or from one place to the next, and you realize, oh man, I'm in a place that I'm not so sure how to get my energy out of here, because it's just you're in that depression. You know what I'm saying? You're in that depression. But my journey, I tell you, I'm gonna start here first. The longest period of depression I ever had was when I transitioned from the military, when I retired from it. I think my depression lasted about 3 months, Jessica. Yeah. People, not a lot of people don't know that, but it lasted about for 3 months. I retired from the military, and just imagine, if you're a person, just imagine 22 years of running and gunning and just doing a lot, busy, always busy. I didn't have a time for to be depressed because I was always busy. There's moments where, but most of the time I'm in and out of things. I'm moving fast, and then I stopped, and everything caught up with me. All the emotion that I was running from, they all caught up. And I was like, how do I feel? How do I experience this feeling now? Jessica, I laid in bed for 3 months straight, by the way. Nothing. All I did was read books. I was like, I didn't want to do anything. I had all the plan, I have all my plan laid out, everything that I was gonna do with my life because I planned it out, but I couldn't execute it. I don't know what happened to me. I was just under this rut, couldn't get out of it. And I just got to sit there a little bit. But what do you think?
I think that what you said for a lot of people can be true, that
Mm-hmm.
depression for some is a short season
Mm-hmm.
of their life. For you, it was 3 months. For some people, it's 3 years, and for other
Mm-hmm.
people, it's 3 decades. And or 3 days, even. Yeah, some people it's even just 3 days, but it's like, how do you move from the peaks when you're stuck in the valley? That's a question that a lot of people struggle with. It's, I believe, when you have purpose and purpose that is meaningful and greater than just impact on you, but impact on others, it doesn't leave a lot of space and time for depression because you're doing something almost, and I'm not trying to minimize anything for anyone and anyone
Mhm.
listening to today's conversation. I don't want it to feel like what you're going through
Mhm.
isn't real or doesn't matter. But I think that when you decided, Asher, something happened, you woke up one day, something happened
Mhm.
that you snapped out of it.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't like you snapped out of it overnight. Maybe it took a
Mm.
few weeks to
Mhm.
snap out of it. Maybe somebody shook you awake, maybe, but what was it for you?
So it's like nobody can solve your depression. That's
Mm.
what I realized first thing. Nobody can solve it. It's just I can't hire you to eat for me. My food gotta go in my mouth. I gotta pick it up and eat it myself, right? Some of those things I learned, right? I realized that nobody can eat the food that I need to eat for myself. I gotta eat it. That's something that I can't outsource, right? So you cannot outsource your depression. But here's the thing I thought about too. If somebody punch you in the face, Jess, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna fight? Are you gonna cower? Things was punching me in the face, and I was like curling up in my bed, which is okay. But then you got to think about the other thing is if somebody punch you in the face but you can't fight back, what do you do? What if you got 12 brothers, by the way? Would you go and say, hey, bro, I just got punched in the face. That guy's bigger than me. I can't fight back by myself. Can you help me fight back? So what I started doing was I was like realize that I got 12 brothers, meaning that not literally, but I got people. I know friends. What are the people that I can reach out to? Hey, man, life is punching me in the face right now. I don't know what to fight back. Can you help me? So that was part of the solution for me. I started talking to people. I started reaching out. And after I started having a conversation, I realized, oh man, like people are willing to help me as long as they know who I need to hire them to fight. I was like, these are the things that's beating my ass right now. I don't know how to deal with it by myself. So then can you help me? Or you can find a way somebody punch you in the face, you get angry. And you know what? I'm not a victim. I'm gonna start fighting back. So sometimes anger helps because I start getting pissed off. What the fuck am I sitting here for? What? But then I start reaching and talking to other people. So those are two options that start working for me, having conversation with my community. Because what in that space I felt like I didn't have a community because I left my brotherhood from the military. But then I started talking to people little by little, sharing the conversation. Then it started shifting my energy a bit, shifting my mindset. I'm like, okay, so now my goals that I want to work on, like I felt like I didn't have a community to help me get to it. But I actually did. I just didn't know who they are. But I started talking to people and hey, I'm getting whooped, man. Can you help me fight? And it was like, sure. What are you fighting? Like, where's the next battle? Let's go. But then you gotta want your people to help you fight. So that's what's some of the solution for me.
I was gonna say that's I think the most challenging part for most people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people struggle. You had courage. You had
Mm,
more courage than you did shame. But a lot
mm,
of people that are battling depression have more shame than courage. Shame because they don't focus in on the mental health that challenge that's not their choice. I don't think
mm-hmm.
anyone wakes up and says, I want to be depressed. I'm going to live a depressing life. And I don't think if anyone had a choice, I don't think that is the choice that they would choose. But when they find themselves in that season or that space in their life,
Mm-hmm.
they have more shame than they do courage to say, I need help. For a lot of people, equally men and women,
Mm-hmm.
it is very hard to say, I need help, right? It is very hard to admit that something is happening in your life that is beyond your control and that you don't want this to be your life for forever. You talk about you finding community, and we speak about that a lot during our conversations, the importance of community. In
Mm-hmm.
community, we, I say, lean on the people around us because those are the people that give us strength when we feel like we can't stand on our own. They're the ones who remind us, God is with
Mm-hmm.
you. I am with you. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
help you. Come on, we got this together. They're the ones who give you the motivation to find the things that live within you to be able to move forward even when you feel stuck. Depression,
Mm-hmm.
you feel stuck. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You look and you come up with every reason why something won't work, why something can't work. You think of all the negative things that are part of whatever decision that you're trying to make and not realize that could those things happen? Yeah, but could something good also happen? Absolutely.
See, here's the good that happens.
Yeah.
The good that happens is depression. It's a forcing mechanism for you to connect with other people, but we end up doing the opposite. We end up isolating because the universe, hey, go meet the rest of people because you gotta be vulnerable. And the thing that causes us to run and hide is vulnerability. Like I don't want to tell you how shitty I feel or shame I am, all that stuff. I don't want to tell nobody that. But actually, that is actually the cure. It's connecting with other people and telling them exactly what you're feeling, what's going to. You gotta be vulnerable with it. And from there, I swear to God, once I start, even I never used to go to therapy. Listen, tell me, most of my military career, they was like, "Oh, go talk to somebody." No, why am I talking to nobody for? But I started doing therapy because I got home I got home here in Connecticut, and I was talking to my sister, and she was like, "Bro, little brother," she was like, "You ain't the same, right?" Even though I'm getting a little teared up, she's like, "You ain't the same, bro. You gotta go talk to somebody." I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna listen to my sister." So I started this therapy thing, and it's been really amazing, by the way, just having a conversation. But before that, my solution when I was working my way through that process was writing because I think it's very easy for me to process what I'm thinking when I start writing it out. And once I start putting it on paper, I was like, okay, I can make sense of this thing because I can see it now. Because in my head, it's too much. When I put it on paper, it started making a difference. So that was part of my solution as well. But definitely when I start talking to people and reaching out and having conversation, and I'm hearing, it's funny, I was talking to one of my other battle too, right? And he was telling me about his depression too. And it was like, bro, I got out of the military and we used to go physical activity, we used to go training, right? It was like I drove to the gym for a couple of weeks straight and I couldn't leave my car in the parking lot to go into the gym. It was like I sat in my parking lot the whole time. Didn't do anything. He just couldn't get up and go. And I was like, bro, it hits me the same way. I couldn't do nothing, Jess. I was paralyzed. I was in my bed. I just lay in bed all day. And it was like he said around he just couldn't work out. And it was like, it's that transition piece. It's to slow down. You gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. And once I slow down and realize where I'm at, okay, where I need to go, and who's gonna go there with me. But it hits sometime and it leave you like helpless.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel helpless, you feel hopeless, you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you can't see a future
Mm,
doesn't feel or look like this. And for some people, it keeps them almost trapped in that mindset. And
mm-hmm.
whether or not that they want to feel that or be in that space, it's almost as if they have no choice. But in all honesty, people do. The choice is to take one step. You took
Mm-hmm.
the step of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not struggling with depression, I'm going to encourage people go book a therapy session. You will be amazed how you feel at the end of a therapy session
Mm-hmm.
when you have the right therapist in your corner really helping you. I think that so right before this recording, I shared with you that when I had been, for those of you who this is the first time you're listening, I am admittedly a little obsessive compulsive. I am a little bit of a type A personality. I like to keep
Too
things,
much attention to detail.
yes, right. And so imagine I woke up one day and my life was never the same again. And for me, it really threw me for a whole unrecognizable version of me and who I was. For many
Mm-hmm.
years, I struggled after I was diagnosed with the condition that I have. I was depressed
Mm-hmm.
and I had never been anxious before. And now I was debilitated by anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and depression for several years became my life. I barely left the house. I
Mm-hmm.
did not want to get out of bed most days. I leaned in on the fact that I was sick and I didn't need to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely a version of me that I did not recognize who I was during that period of my life. And we all, and you said this before we recorded, you could put on a smile. You could put on go into a room and put on a smile, and that may not be how you feel. And I can too. That's the mask we wear, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
masked version of who we are and what we're feeling that we put on for the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would, when I needed to, put on my mask, whether it was to be not the best mom back then because I was sick and I was depressed and I was anxious, but to be whatever version of a good mom showed up for my son because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want this to impact his life. And when I needed to go to a family something, I would put on a mask figuratively and literally with some makeup and just try to sit in the room and smile until it was time to go. And so for some people, they didn't even realize what was happening to me in my life, except for my husband and my son who lived through it with me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, how did I go from that version of Jess to this version of Jess, coaching people that they can live their best life, they could be successful entrepreneurs, they could be servant leaders, they can conquer whatever it is that they're looking to conquer in the world. It's a hard choice of realizing, at least for me, in my experience, I will preface that it was a choice that I didn't want my life to feel like that for forever. And that I was the only one that could start the process of change. Do you
Mm-hmm.
agree with that, Asher?
Here's the tie back. So if we go back to the emotion of Adam and we think about it, because here's the thing, we all go through this thing, Jess. This is the thing. Like depression is one of those emotions as part of the main course of life. It's on the menu, right? You're gonna order one of those one of these days, and you're gonna like, wait a minute, oh, it's on my plate now, right? And you gotta eat it. And sometimes it's not delicious, by the way, but you gotta eat it. But here's the thing I thought about when you were talking about coaching, because you went through that process of depression. Now you can relate to people that are depressed because now you've run with the wolves, right? You know what the wolves are. Like you can protect the sheep, like I always say, right? So now you're a great shepherd because you ran with the wolf. You know what the wolf look like. So when somebody showed up depressed, oh, I understand what you're going through because I've been through it. So sometimes when people are going through depression, hey, you need to have that experience because that's a main course of all men, right? We have that emotion. We go through that emotion. And now you can relate because you've been through it yourself and you recognize what it is. But if you've never been through it, automatically your judgment thing is very high, right? Empathy is very low. And it's a state that requires a lot of vulnerability and a lot of empathy. And if you don't have it, you're going to alienate people. So when you was talking about it, that makes you a better coach, right? A better mom, a better friend, because now you have experienced those things for yourself and you know what it felt like. And I'll tell you, I didn't experience a lot of depression when I was in the military because I was hard charging, right? I was doing a thing. But no, I recognize what that thing can do to you if you let that occupy you for too long. Because man, listen, after I retired from the military, I took a whole year sabbatical, right? I didn't do anything. But for the first 3 months, I didn't really do anything. My brother was like, bro, you're gonna leave the room? This is my cave for now. But I also discovered something else. We're gonna tie this to the other piece of the thing that I didn't know about myself too. Because while I was going through my state of depression, because things was feeling challenged, I discovered my dyslexia, the symptom of dyslexia. I didn't learn about it. I know the word, but I didn't look into it. But when I look into that thing also, just like you look in depression, you can see all the symptoms. I look into the dyslexia, I see the symptoms, and I was crying for 30 minutes, just uncontrollable cry. Tears. I haven't had those in years. But it started coming down. I was like, wow, now I see why life was so hard for me, like growing up, because of these symptoms. So when I look at depression, the same thing. Oh my God, this is what's happening to me. Wait a minute. Oh, there's a recipe for me for what to do when you're depressed. Because somebody have written a book, a lot of books on this. They can tell you exactly what you need to do step by step out of it. But oftentimes we don't know that. So I started reading stuff. I'm like, oh, this is what I need to start doing. Oh, I need to connect with other people. But I was doing the opposite. I was hiding. But I need to connect. So that's what came to mind just now. What are your thoughts?
I think that when someone is focused on trying and wanting to move from the space and place of depression, part of that journey is discovery,
Mm,
self discovery, the way you had self discovery. Sometimes it's discovery about your family, your friends, your situations, your past, discovery of what has gotten you to where you feel hopeless or not able to move forward in a way that serves you. At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, we cannot serve others if we can't serve ourselves. We cannot love others if we do not love ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot help someone else if we cannot help ourselves. Is there a certain level of honesty and transparency and humility that's required to take those steps to get out of that darkness? Absolutely. But I think that when you look at your life and you
Mm-hmm.
feel like I am not living. This is not the life that I envisioned. This is not the life that I wanted. This is not the life that I had. And this is not the life that I want to have. That it requires you to be able to do what you did, which was to have more courage than shame and say, I need help. I don't know where to go to get it. I don't know what to do to get it. I just know that I don't want this to be the rest of my life. And it doesn't always mean that the person, if you go to a therapist, they'll know what to do. But when you go to your circle of family, friends, acquaintances, and for some people, that's part of why they're depressed. They don't have people that they can go to in their life. My thing, go to a church, any religion, it doesn't matter. Sit in a seat and ask for help. Someone in that church will help you, but you have to want to take that first step of doing something different so that you can have a different life. And it's not easy. I will repeat that a million times if I have to. I don't want anyone listening to this conversation to feel that I'm underestimating the feeling. Hopelessness is a
It's
horrible feeling.
it's
I
heavy.
would not wish that on my worst enemy. It's a battle that you cannot win alone. It needs community, it needs support, it needs professional help, it needs more than just what you can do for yourself. No one wakes up one day after being depressed, whether it's 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, or 3 decades, and all of a sudden says, I'm not depressed anymore. I'm good. Let's go. That's not, it does not work like that.
So, but let's help the folks tennis their way out of depression. If you got a tennis your way out of depression, the cure is connection.
Yes.
And it's connection to the right people, to the right resources, to the right community, to the right purpose. Because even though I had plans that I was going to execute, it didn't feel like it was my powerful purpose. Because after I was cut off from my past, like my history, my brotherhood, I'm like, okay, these are the big plans for my life, but now, okay, how do I do this? Who do I do it with? And so when you're in depression, you're probably not seeing a lot of solution because you're blinded. You're in the jar, and the label is on your jar. Can't see it while you're trapped in it. So now you gotta connect with other people because they're gonna help you see you, right? Because your eyes to your memory is blurred. I tell anybody this, right? They can create the best of technology out there in the world, but you know what they gotta filter through? They gotta filter through five things. Your five senses, and your five senses are your filter. And if that thing is blurred, it doesn't matter how great that telescope is, you ain't gonna see nothing. You ain't gonna see the possibilities because your eyes are blind. And in my depression, my eyes were really blind. I wasn't seeing a lot of stuff. And when I started talking to people, they start asking different questions. They start sharing their experience. I'm like, how did I miss that? How did I miss that? How did I didn't see that? But you can't see it because you're blind within your own bubble. So I say start connecting with people, and it's gonna require vulnerability. And you just gotta find the most safest people to talk to at first. And oftentimes they say go talk to a professional because they're the most safest place to go. But there's other people if you can afford a therapist, there are other people that you can really talk to. But you gotta be vulnerable. And you gotta state the obvious. And the obvious thing is you're depressed. So state that obvious thing and then work from there. But oftentimes we can't admit that we're depressed. And oftentimes you probably don't even know you're depressed. You just know you don't feel right.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel right, most likely You're in the valley and you want to get to the other peak. So yeah,
I
that would
mean,
be my response.
I definitely agree with the whole valley and the peak. That was, although it was two different valleys and two different peaks for you and for me, you
Mm-hmm.
transitioned out of the military. I was told I couldn't work anymore full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of passion and purpose through the work that I did. So when I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I had no purpose was when I didn't see the value that I had for anyone or anything. And I felt that sense of hopelessness and depression and anxiety of I can't control everything. And that's what anxiety is, right? Trying to focus in on either the future or the past. And it's not living in the moment that creates that sense of anxiety. You can't control everything and you can't change the things that happen. But when we talk about purpose and when you are in that space of depression, you don't see how you have purpose many times. And I'm going to encourage people to start small. Purpose doesn't have to be to go change the world. Purpose could be opening your eyes and making the bed today. Today, I'm going to start small. The accomplishment that I am going to call my win for the day is I'm going to make my bed, right? Or maybe it's I'm going to go for a walk around the block. I am going to wash the dishes or cook a meal instead of eating unhealthy. Whatever it is, start small, start with what you have and where you're at. And each day focus on how you could be better and do better. It's not about starting a business to find purpose. It's not going to volunteer somewhere to find purpose. It's that you wake up and that even if it's just for a few minutes of that day, you're grateful for the life that you have. And it
Mm-hmm.
pushes you to do one small thing that day that's going to be the purpose for you to keep going every single day, to do more, to do different so that you can be better, so that you can have a different outcome. For a lot of people, worth is tied into accomplishments, accolades, work. Excuse me. Worth is equated to a dollar amount or an income level. Worth isn't any of those things. You determine your worth. No one determines that for you. I've said in the past jokingly, I'm a billionaire, baby. My bank account doesn't reflect it, but I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I won't let anyone steal my joy or take away from me what I feel is the value that I bring
Mm-hmm.
to the table. And I wasn't always that billionaire, I don't know what we want to call it, mindset of my worth.
Mm-hmm.
For many years, I felt worthless. For many years, I couldn't get out of the bed. For many years, until God shook me. And I've shared that part of my story here several times, where instead of waking up and saying, why me? I said, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
me. And that was the thing that was the transitional part of my journey from moving out of that space of depression, feeling sorry for myself when I realized that there's people that have worse and more than I did. And it's almost as if I had an awakening of being grateful for what I had because I was still alive and I could still do so much more than other people could. You don't need something that traumatic to happen to you in order to have a wake up call. You have to decide that you want help, you're willing to get help, and that you have more courage than shame.
Mm. We're gonna get to the wrap up moment here because I know you gotta hit the road too.
Yeah.
And for the folks, you're listening to this right now, and I know Jess bring up the word anxiety a lot too with depression because they're like cousins. So you're gonna get once you get one, the other one gonna show up too. But here's a breakthrough that I had when I was having a conversation with my therapist too, and it was about the anxiety piece. And anxiety shows up in the absence of routine. So she was asking me, Asher, she was like, Asher, how many new things are you doing right now? And I laid a whole bunch of lists, and she was like, that's why you have an anxiety. So she was like, how much thing that you're doing right now that you normally do all the time? I'm like, I do a few things all the time, but I'm always chasing that new thing. And she was like, when you do new things, you get a lot of anxiety because it's new. But routine things oftentimes eliminate the anxiety. So if you figure out your life, figure out how much routine you have and how much new things you're doing. And you gotta make sure that you do more routine than new things. If not, you're gonna have to process a lot of anxiety. I'm like, oh my God. Because I'm always trying to figure out new stuff, right? Trying to learn something new. And it creates anxiety, trying to figure it out. So when I recognize, I'm like, wait a minute. Hmm. So if you don't have a lot of routine in your life, you're gonna have a lot of anxiety. So that oftentimes transition creates a low, it eliminates a lot of routine because you transition. Oh my God, I'm not in a space where I have the same thing I'm doing every day. So I'm doing a bunch of new things, create anxiety, might put you in depression too. But I recognize once I learned, I'm like, okay, so now I gotta make sure I balance this out. It's like failure and success, right? You need a because success is like a routine, by the way, and failure is the anxiety. It's like a new thing. And oftentimes that new experience throw you off. So you gotta have enough balance between that because if you can't afford the new thing, you're gonna feel like you run out of money because you're like, I can't afford all these failures. I can't afford all these new things because I don't have enough routine, enough success to balance it out. So you gotta figure out how much you got to pay based on the success and the failure, the routine, or the anxiety piece of it. So that's where my mind going just now. So you gotta tie that back to your own life and figure out, okay, how much new things are you trying each week? And are they too much? Maybe you gotta reduce the new stuff you're doing and balance out your routine because you need it. Because it keeps you balanced and stable. Over to you, Jess. Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think that even in the conversation that we've had about depression,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of it stemmed for you and a lot of it stemmed for me of no longer having routine, no
Mm-hmm.
longer having the structure of knowing what your life was going to look like in any given day. Not what it was going to feel like, right? Because every day you could repeat the same thing in terms of routine and you feel different throughout the day, every single
Mm-hmm.
day. Routine doesn't mean the same feeling. Routine means there's a plan.
It's predictability.
Yeah, there's a plan. And it doesn't mean that throughout the course of that day, unplanned things didn't happen or unpredictable things didn't happen. It means that you had purpose, a path to follow for that day. You
Mm-hmm.
knew for the most part what was going to be your day, which is why I live by a calendar and the get done list. I need to know what my day is going to look like. But not everybody does that. Some people wake up without any of those tools and just go with the flow, whatever happens.
And they're very good at processing the emotion of new things.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So starting small, again, the accomplishment of what it is that you can do today to feel worthy
Mm-hmm.
of happiness. You cannot focus in on other people's thoughts, other people's opinions. You can't think about all the things that aren't working, all the things that aren't going right. You need to take small steps towards, I say, the exit door, right? Towards the I'm getting out of this room. It's almost as if you're they have those rooms where you have to like figure out how to get out of, that you're trapped in the room. It's that you make a choice that you are going to figure out where that exit door is, that you do not want to stay in this space, that you are going to ask for help. If you don't know who to ask for help, you're going to ask, I'm going to say anyone. You would be so surprised at
Mm-hmm.
how humanity comes and meets you where you are when you put out into the universe. I'm ready. I want help. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And God will present himself in the most unexpected ways for you to start the process of exiting the room that is not meant to serve you. And I'm going to just say, as we wrap up, that it may sound weird. And if you know me, you know that I really mean it. And it's not as weird as it sounds. But even though I haven't met any of the people that are listening to today's episode, and I'm getting a little teary eyed as I say it, because I really feel it, is that I love you
Mm.
and that you are not alone. God is with you, within you, and by your side. And no matter how hopeless you may feel in this moment or any given moment in your life, with faith, hope, and love, everything is possible. And ask for help. It's there waiting for you.
Thank you so much for dropping those gems, Jess, and being so emotional with it. Because everybody knows that life is hard and life is also easy. And I often tell people sometimes, don't rob me of my failures because I want to experience some of those things. And not because you might have experienced failure in a certain way and probably couldn't process it. You might expect I might do the same thing, but maybe not. But don't rob me of my failures. Don't rob me of my depression because I want to have those emotional experiences about life. What you can tell me is, hey, we're starting to lose you a bit. So come back to the light. Don't stay in there too long, right? Don't stay in the valley too long. Get back on the peak. But either way, everybody needs to have their own experience. And depression is something that you need to experience, but you need to figure out how long you're going to experience it for because it's a part of the emotion of life, right? The juicy stuff. And you're going to look back at a depression state and like, wait a minute, wow. Because I look back at my journey, I'm like, man, I can talk about that. That's a reference point. And I meet somebody that's depressed, I'm like, we can have a conversation about depression because I've been through that one too. But it's all about what makes life juicy is those things. And that's an emotion that happens in life. You just got to understand what it is and know that Adam had it, and so will you. Right? We start with Adam piece, right? He had it, you had it, you're gonna have it too. So just expect it to happen, and once it happens, you realize that you're gonna need more people in your life, because I think life was designed for us to come together. And there's emotion that's out there that's gonna force you to, or not, but you're gonna come together. And if you isolate yourself, it's not good for a man to be alone. It's written. So go find people to hang out with. And with that, Jess, what are some? You got some admin stuff?
All
How can
right.
people find you?
Some admin stuff. You can find me on Instagram at Success is Your Reward with Jess. We have in 2 weeks, I know I've been talking about it a lot, but we're going to have the official 12-week coaching program that's going to be ready for registration. And I'll be sharing the site and all the details for that. I'm excited at Memoirs to Millions with
Mm-hmm.
Asher and a bunch of other projects that we're working on. We just had our first success event that we're going to be having the next one in April. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, lots of good things happening. Asher, where can they find you?
Oh, Asher AW, right? On the platforms. But on Instagram, it's asher.ra.sg. That's my handle. But search me, you can find me there. But yeah, and check out my books on Amazon too. Asher.aw. Got a bunch of books out there that I'm working on. My goal is to write 86 book by my 86th birthday. So all I'm doing is writing. Because one day I want to write a great book before I leave planet Earth, right? That's my goal. Write a great book that that lasts beyond that lasts beyond time. A book that's just timeless, a timeless book. I want to write one of those before I leave. The Bible is timeless. I'm gonna go put that up in my forefront so I can write something that's timeless too. One day I will get to do it, but I'm gonna practice writing a book, 86 book by the time I leave planet Earth, and hopefully one of those become a timeless book. With that, folks, make it an utterly fantastic week.
Yes, and just a reminder, if you get any enjoyment from our conversations, like, comment, and subscribe. Our goal is to grow the Idea Tennis community to 1,000 subscribers and share what you'd like to hear some more about. God bless and have a good week.
All right.